Ukraine, a country in Eastern Europe, has found itself at the center of a significant geopolitical struggle. It is facing a very difficult time, with its cities and towns bearing the brunt of the ongoing turmoil. There's a big conflict happening there, involving military actions, political maneuvers, and social upheaval. This conflict is important for everyone to understand, as it has far-reaching implications beyond Ukraine's borders. It affects many people and has become a concern for the whole world. The humanitarian crisis has led to a massive displacement of people, with refugees seeking safety in neighboring countries and beyond. The situation is complex and has deep roots in history. Ukraine's past is marked by a series of significant events that have shaped its present. To grasp the current crisis, we need to look back at the events that led to this point. From its time under the Soviet Union to its independence and subsequent struggles, each chapter in Ukraine's history has contributed to the current state of affairs. By understanding the past, we can better understand the present and think about what might happen in the future. Analysts and historians provide insights into the possible outcomes and the steps that might be taken to resolve the conflict. Diplomatic efforts are ongoing, with international leaders striving to find a peaceful resolution. The world watches closely, hoping for a breakthrough that will bring stability to the region. Despite the conflict, the spirit of the Ukrainian people remains strong. Their rich culture and traditions continue to thrive, showcasing their resilience and hope for a better future. Rebuilding efforts are already underway in many parts of the country, with communities coming together to support one another. The determination to rebuild and move forward is evident in the faces of the people. The global community stands in solidarity with Ukraine, offering aid and support. Messages of hope and encouragement pour in from all corners of the world, reinforcing the belief that peace and stability can be achieved. As we look to the future, there is a sense of cautious optimism. The road ahead is challenging, but with continued support and determination, Ukraine can overcome this difficult period and emerge stronger. Ukraine's journey is far from over, but its resilience and the support of the global community offer hope for a brighter tomorrow. One key factor is the legacy of the Soviet Union. Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, which was a powerful empire controlling many countries. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991 and Ukraine became independent. However, the Soviet Union's influence didn't disappear overnight. Russia, the largest and most powerful former Soviet republic, still had a big impact on Ukraine. This historical connection plays a significant role in the current crisis. In 2014, big protests known as the Euromaidan protests happened in Ukraine. These protests were a significant turning point in the country's history, drawing thousands of people from all walks of life to the streets of Kiev and other cities. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of hope, anger and determination as people gathered to voice their discontent. People were unhappy with the government's decision to have closer ties with Russia instead of Europe. The government's sudden pivot towards Russia, after years of negotiations for closer integration with the European Union, felt like a betrayal to many Ukrainians who saw their future aligned with Europe. The streets echoed with chants and slogans demanding change and accountability. They wanted Ukraine to be closer to the European Union. The EU represented not just economic opportunities, but also democratic values and human rights, which many Ukrainians aspired to. The blue and gold flags of the EU became symbols of hope and a better future, fluttering alongside the national flag in the hands of passionate demonstrators. These protests led to a change in Ukraine's government. The pressure from the streets was immense, and eventually the government was forced to resign. New leaders, who promised to steer Ukraine towards a European path, took charge. The sense of victory was palpable, and celebrations erupted as people felt they had reclaimed their country's destiny. However, Russia did not like this change. The Kremlin viewed the shift towards Europe as a direct threat to its influence in the region. For Russia, Ukraine was not just a neighboring country, but a crucial part of its sphere of influence, and losing it to the West was unacceptable. Russia was worried about losing its influence in Ukraine. The strategic importance of Ukraine, with its vast resources and key geographical position, made it a valuable ally for Russia. The prospect of Ukraine joining the EU or NATO was seen as a significant geopolitical loss. This led to even more tension between the two countries. Diplomatic relations deteriorated rapidly, and the border regions became hotspots of military activity. Both sides began to fortify their positions, and the world watched anxiously as the situation escalated. Things became worse when Russia took control of Crimea, a peninsula in southern Ukraine. In a swift and controversial move, Russian troops entered Crimea, and a disputed referendum was held, leading to the annexation of the region by Russia. This act was condemned by the international community, but Russia stood firm in its decision and supported separatists in eastern Ukraine who wanted to break away from the country. The conflict in the Donbas region intensified, with pro-Russian separatists declaring independence from Ukraine. The fighting led to a humanitarian crisis, with thousands of lives lost and many more displaced. The dream of a united and peaceful Ukraine seemed more distant than ever. The future of Ukraine is uncertain. There's a lot of fighting and disagreement. It is hard to predict what will happen. However, people are working hard to find a solution. There are efforts to find a peaceful way to end the conflict. It is important to support these efforts and hope for a positive outcome for Ukraine. Section 5. The weight of diplomacy. Finding paths to peace. Many countries and international groups are trying to help Ukraine find peace. They are talking to Russia and Ukraine to see if they can find a solution everyone can agree on. It is important for everyone involved to talk to each other and try to understand each other's concerns. Finding a peaceful solution will be hard, but it is the most important thing to work towards. Section 6. The global stage international implications of the crisis. The conflict in Ukraine is a big problem, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the whole world. It has made other countries worried about their own safety. For example, some countries are worried that Russia might try to take over other nearby countries. This has made them increase their own defenses and work together more closely with their allies. Section 7. A world watching. The role of international organizations. International organizations like the United Nations are very important in trying to solve the conflict in Ukraine. They can help to keep the peace, provide humanitarian aid to people in need, and encourage dialogue between the different sides. The United Nations has sent peacekeepers to Ukraine to try to stop the fighting. They are also working to make sure that people who have been affected by the conflict have access to food, water, and shelter. Section 8. The long road to recovery, economic impacts and challenges. The conflict in Ukraine has had a big impact on the country's economy. Many businesses have been destroyed, and people have lost their jobs. Rebuilding the Ukrainian economy will be a long and difficult process. It will require a lot of help from other countries. It is important to support Ukraine's economic recovery so that the country can rebuild and prosper. Section 9. Security concerns, navigating a fragile peace. The conflict in Ukraine has left deep scars on the nation and its people. The path to peace is fraught with challenges and uncertainties. Even if the fighting in Ukraine stops, there will still be a lot of work to do to make sure that it doesn't start again. The infrastructure has been heavily damaged, and the psychological impact on the civilians and soldiers is profound. Rebuilding trust within the community and between neighboring countries is essential. This will involve addressing the security concerns of both Ukraine and its neighbors. Diplomatic efforts must be intensified to ensure that all parties feel secure and respected. Regular security conferences and bilateral meetings will be crucial in maintaining open lines of communication. Ukraine will need to rebuild its military. This includes not only replenishing its equipment, but also retraining its soldiers to adapt to new security challenges. The focus will be on creating a modern, efficient and resilient military force capable of defending the nation, and strengthen its borders to make sure that it can defend itself. Fortifying border security is a priority to prevent any future incursions. This will involve setting up advanced surveillance systems, increasing the number of checkpoints, and ensuring that all border areas are well guarded. Other countries will need to work together. International cooperation is key to ensuring long-term peace and stability in the region. Organizations like NATO and the United Nations will play a significant role in facilitating dialogue and providing support. To provide security guarantees to Ukraine, these guarantees will help Ukraine feel secure and supported. Joint military exercises and defense agreements will be essential in building a strong alliance, so that it feels safe from future aggression. Peacekeeping forces may be deployed to monitor the situation and ensure compliance with peace agreements. International aid will be crucial in rebuilding the nation and providing humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict. The journey to lasting peace is long and arduous, but with collective effort and unwavering commitment, it is achievable. Section 10. Hope for a brighter future towards lasting stability in Ukraine. Despite the challenges, it is important to remain hopeful that a peaceful solution can be found for Ukraine. The international community must continue to work together to support Ukraine and its people. By promoting dialogue, providing humanitarian aid, and working towards a lasting political settlement, there is hope that Ukraine can overcome its current difficulties and build a brighter future for all its citizens.